If you want to hear about how Switzerland changed my life, then this video is for you. Now, I know it may sound a bit dramatic to say Switzerland saved my life, but I would say more specifically that travel saved my life. Before I left for this trip, I was in a pretty deep and dark place. If you followed me on this channel, you would know that a year prior, I lost one of my best friends. She had an aneurysm and a stroke, and she passed literally within the span of a few short hours. For me, it took me a very long time to get through that. And all last year, as I was sort of middling my way through life, I kept seeing Instagram posts with these waterfalls. And these were beautiful waterfalls in the midst of these mountains and what I know now to be Alps. And everything I was seeing kept drawing me to this place. Now, I couldn't determine if it was the algorithm seeing how I interacted with these posts that made them continue to show them to me. However, I thought to myself, this must be a sign. I must go to Switzerland. Now, just a few facts about this trip before we get started. Number one, I am a black man. I'm a 6'3" black man with a beard and tattoos. Why does that really matter? Well, it's because as I've posted about this trip, I've noticed a lot of people ask about how black and brown people were treated in Switzerland. And I'm happy to tell you, like anywhere else in the world that they should be treated, I was treated as a human, with kindness, with respect, with dignity, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. Now, the next thing I will tell you is that this was indeed a luxury trip. What do I mean by that? Well, when we talked to our travel agent, she asked some very specific questions, and she wanted to know what type of experience we wanted to have. Now, for me, when I'm traveling, I like to consider it a luxury. It could be the smallest things down to the most minute details about an experience that could make it luxury for me or for you. I don't say any of these things with regards to luxury to brag, but mostly just to convey the type of experience that I was hoping for and I actually got. And so as we take this journey over the next several videos, this will be a series that's really dedicated to showing you the experience that I had in Switzerland as well as in Italy, because that was also part of the experience. Now, as far as travel goes, I do prefer to travel business class. Again, as I stated before, none of this is meant to brag. It's really just for motivational purposes to show you the place that I was at and where I ended up mentally, spiritually, and physically by the end of the trip. With that being said, this video series will be broken down into two types of videos. The first type will be traditional vlogs, where I take you through the journey of my day. And then the second type will be a recap that occurred at the end of each night. I found doing these very helpful. They kind of served as a little journal for me. And so you will see throughout this series that could end up being quite long. I'm not really sure. It will be as long as I need to make it. And it will show you everything that I experienced, and you will actually get all of my thoughts and feelings. Now, the other part of this is I'm thinking about turning this into a book because, to be honest, Switzerland, it did change my life. And I really want to tell as many people about it as possible. With that being said, let's dive in. Travel with me to Switzerland. I always say that the vacation begins the moment I set foot on the plane. Now, in truth, I left DC and took a business class American Airlines flight to JFK. Once I got to JFK, I then boarded a British Airways flight to Heathrow. Now, I absolutely love business class because for me, I'm 6'3". So I need all the comfort that I possibly can get for a 7.5 hour flight. Now, this was also a night flight. Again, it's the comfort for me. As you guys can see, I've already gotten myself nice and comfortable. My stuff is already situated. I've made a little bit of a mess, but it's fine because this will be home for the next 7 hours. I got my book to read, I got my headphones, I got the headphones that they supply for the television, and here's just a bit more of the view of what you would see around the rest of the flight. I love a window seat because I just kind of like being next to the window in case I want to open the window and look out, or I just want to kind of relax. But at least this way, I always feel like I'm just kind of chilling by myself. Now, the meal service was superb. Because it was a night flight, we had dinner. So I had the filet, I had the potatoes, gravy, they had a biscuit or a roll, I guess you could say, salad, as well as some type of vegetable dish that I don't even know what it was. But it was honestly all really good for an airline flight meal. And of course, I had my glass of champagne and a Coke. Now, here's something interesting. I had to then land in Heathrow and take a car service to Gatwick. Have you guys ever done this before? Gatwick is apparently another airport that's an hour away. I couldn't avoid taking this Gatwick flight to Geneva because there were no flights leaving from Heathrow to Geneva. So this was a little minor inconvenience, but it was okay. The one thing that I think that you need to know if you're traveling from Gatwick is it's a little similar to Heathrow in that they do make you take all of your liquids out and put them into this plastic bag if you're carrying anything on the plane. So be aware of that. And you're usually only allowed one plastic bag per person. The other thing that you might need to be aware of is that you may not know what your gate is until about 10 minutes before you're set to board. That's a little concerning for me, but we made it. Now, the other concern that I did have was for this business class flight, there were 3 seats. Look how small this seat is. I'm 6'3", which is why I like riding in business class. There wasn't really a lot of space, and they had put a partition between me and the person beside me. But the meal more than made up for it. It was like this combination of afternoon tea, but of course I had my champagne, I had my Coke, and of course I had my afternoon tea. Duh. It wouldn't be tea time without a little afternoon tea. Now this flight was probably about from 2 in the afternoon till about maybe 5 p.m. I think. I believe we may have switched time zones as well. It wasn't that long of a flight. It was a pretty pleasant experience once I got past the small seat. Now, I will admit also too, the service on this flight was top notch. They even gave me this little paper cup when I was done and they were done serving so I could still keep drinking my tea. I thought this was pretty nice as well. Once I landed in Geneva, I actually was able to catch an Uber to the hotel. Now, the cool thing about this is that Geneva is absolutely beautiful. When I tell you, it's always interesting to land in a new city and sort of assess the architecture, look at how the trees are different, how the roads are different, the signs are different, and just sort of absorb it all. I really wanted you guys to sort of capture my experience as I'm riding through and just sort of taking it all in. I wanted to be as present as possible. And this was also another great way for me to ensure that I stayed off my phone, because I really wanted this trip to be about really resetting myself, recentering myself, and escaping the daily grind of social media, work, responsibilities, and really just sort of soaking up the culture and the landscape and the architecture of everything that I was seeing around me. It's all new to me. Seeing it all for the first time, is quite an interesting experience, especially when you're doing it alone. Mind you, Aria, my travel partner, she was in Paris at this point and she had not yet gotten there. But it was a nice little ride to the hotel. Now let's actually get into this hotel room. First of all, this hotel was not a part of the package that the travel agent had arranged. Because of the flight that I decided to take, I actually arrived in Geneva earlier than planned. So I ended up booking my own room at this particular hotel in the heart of Geneva, in the city center. And I am so happy with my choice because it honestly had everything that I wanted. I want to also let y'all know that the mini bar, you did have to pay for all of those items. I always take note of that when I go to hotels because it really just does say something though about the hotel when you don't have to pay for those items and they're already included in the room. But I digress. It did not take away from the majesty of this room, nor the bathroom. I love this. I absolutely loved this bathroom. The shower head, the tub, which I did not get to use, the towel warmers, everything about it, I felt like was top notch. Of course, got to get the mirror shot, show you guys the sink, and just sort of how everything was, I felt like meticulously designed. I just thought it was just an awesome bathroom. As you guys can see, there's a foyer here, and then there's the main entrance into the actual room itself. And when I tell you I had so much space in this room, I had about 5 jackets and I had space for all of them. How I managed to pack those in my suitcase, I really don't know. Here you guys can see the plug that they had left in the room for me so that I could use because of course we're in a different country and Switzerland is not a part of the EU. So I'm not necessarily sure if that's why they have their own sort of electrical plugs or whatever you call them. I honestly, it's like a minor detail for me because I felt like every hotel that we went to, they actually had them already for us, even though I did bring my own. All right, can we get into the bed? Is this a canopy bed? Is that what they call it? Of course, you had your television and all that good stuff, and then have this nice little office area that I just thought was super nice, just in case I did decide to do some work. And of course, they had your coffee maker. You guys can see my passport there. The view outside was really nothing to write home about because it was just a view into the back of the hotel. But they did have a nice little restaurant that I went to for dinner. And this artichoke salad right here, y'all, I had it 2 nights in a row and it gave me life, along with a nice crisp glass of champagne. You couldn't tell me nothing after this. But this duck, listen, y'all, when I tell y'all this food on this vacation was amazing, this is duck in between a layer of mashed potatoes and gravy. And they called it some type of shepherd's pie. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was delightful. Well, a lot of this is going to be because the menu was in French, but I did recognize that this was duck. So I was able to find something that I felt would satisfy my taste buds and my palate. This was amazing. Seasoned to perfection, but not overly so. All right, this is part 1. Be sure to stick around for part 2 and more of this extravagant adventure.